Well, welcome everyone. I'm Steve Savant. We're broadcasting live from the heart of Phoenix, Arizona on KXXT Family Values Radio. And I also want to welcome our online audience on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And I want to give a big shout out to Beyond Fear to Freedom, one of the best Christ-centered fellowships that provide a safe and loving community for women in recovery. Just go out to their website and check out all the activity and times and everything you can join at beyondfeartofreedom.org. And don't forget, if you want to contact me, my email address for the show is steve@180uturn.com. That's steve at 180youturn.com. And if you're listening to this show and you're saying, Steve, I love your show, 180, everybody has these dramatic turnarounds. You could have your own turnaround. Hey, don't just leave us have all the fun.
Yeah,
you could have some of this too.
Absolutely.
Well, all this week, I have Raygen Mitchell with us, and I have to say, after the first hour, and I kind of saw a lot of this in his script, but honestly, to be honest with you, I don't find too many guys that have lived my life. This is like kind of, wow, you know. Our fathers both at the time were in visitation in prison. I mean, I love it when it's not that I want to commiserate over that. I don't want to do that.
No, absolutely.
But it's great to know that you're not the only one. And when I was in school, maybe you felt the same way. When I was in school, I didn't know anybody whose dad was in prison. Yeah. I didn't know anybody whose mom did time in the nut house. I mean, I felt alone. And by the way, a little side note, one of my top 10 favorite sermons out of the 400 to 500 that I have for prison is one that the girls titled, I Just Want Normal.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Wow. How is that a cry for a child's heart after what you and I have been through?
Absolutely. I think that was one of the things that I always wanted was I just want a normal life. So whatever I thought normal looked like, whatever the world showed me was normal, getting married, having kids, having a job, getting a house, all of those things, that's what I really wanted. I was like, if I get all of these things, then everything will be okay. Well,
I always say, and after having 4 daughters, right?
Oh wow!
I always say, no guy's worth anything in their 20s, much less you got married at 19.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how is any guy really ready for marriage at 19?
I thought I was. Had convinced myself that I thought we were ready. My wife, or my girlfriend, then became my wife at the time. We thought everything was going to be fine. We thought we had it all figured. You know, you're 19, 18. You think you have it all figured out, right? Nobody can tell you that you're crazy or maybe you need to wait. But we did that, and we just struggled. You know, neither one of us knew the Lord. Neither one of us had really any. Both of us had a really rough upbringing. Her mom, she had a lot of trauma in her life, and her mother was a drug addict, and she had to live with her grandparents all her life, and so we both just two broken people trying to piece together a life. It was rough. Had kids right away.
I have to say, I've rarely seen it work when you have two broken people make a whole couple.
Right. No, two unhealed people with no healing, and then you just jump in and you think, hey, we can make this work. We can, you know, it's never. It was rough.
It's so difficult, you know, and by the way, again, remember, it's hard with the Lord.
Right.
It's completely impossible without Him.
Right. I agree. Yeah, it's mostly you have to really work hard at a relationship. If you both know Jesus and you both love Him, you still got to work terribly hard. But if you don't, you have a hard chance. You have a better chance winning the Powerball probably than you do to navigate a marriage for a long term without Jesus Christ in your life.
Okay, and then of course, let's just compound the problem and let's just start having kids right away.
Well, that's what you do, right?
Yeah,
You're
that's
like,
what you do.
And then when we had my son right out the gate, and he was great. He was awesome. We had no idea what we were doing, so that just helped because we were stressed. We were afraid we were going to be bad parents. I think the night that we boiled it down to the night that we probably conceived my son, and it was my 19th birthday, and I had been drinking all night. I think she had been drinking and smoking weed all night. We were so concerned and worried that we were going to, immediately you started looking up, well, what can go wrong? How can, will there be birth defects? Can there be abnormalities?
Oh, yeah.
So we were concerned. And so that's just how things started for us.
But when your son was born normal.
Yeah, we were so excited.
Yeah, but it didn't wake you up.
No.
You're like, wow. We got out of that one.
Yeah, no, we just continued to we were both bartenders and waiting tables and stuff, and so we did everything that normal. We drank, we would go out and drink and stuff, and just but I tried to be as normal as I possibly could. But the pressure that mounted from trying to live a normal life, again, having a belief that I am just an imposter, living this life, and even though she's my wife, if she knows the real me, she won't love me. So I'm still putting on a face for everyone, including my wife.
I think it takes serious human effort and sweat equity to promote a false persona.
Yes.
That keeps a mask online, right?
Absolutely.
And a veneer. And people that live this way, right? I mean, they have serious trauma. I mean, you go to your cardiologist in your early 30s and you got fight and flight problems, and he's putting you on Metropolo and everything else to calm your EKGs down, right?
Yeah, that's what always happened to me. So not only did I have a mask that I put on for everyone else out here, but then I had a mask for my family, and I had a mask for my wife. I had a mask for everybody because I didn't want anybody to know the real me, because I was always this loud, jovial, fun person that everyone wanted to gravitate towards. But inside, I was really sad all the time, really broken all the time. Like was depressed. Whenever no one was in the room, sometimes I would go to the bathroom to use the bathroom, but I would just go in there and just sit and cry. Married, have kids, got a job, everything's going fine, and I just go to the bathroom and cry because I didn't know what to do. I was like, "What? I can't keep this up. Someone's going to
maintain it?
Someone's going to find out that I'm not supposed to be here."
I just want you to know, if you're listening to this and you say, "Steve, that's me," I just highly recommend, and we're going to talk about the things that Raygen's doing now with Teen Challenge and stuff later on in the week. Our sponsor is BFF, Beyond Fear to Freedom. All these people are trying to help people.
Absolutely.
And one of the songs I wrote way back in the day with a very good friend of mine who's just an excellent writer, wrote this song called Where We Hide. And in the chorus it says, "And Jesus can take off our mask at last."
Yeah,
I love that line because, and then you're saying in your life, you have multiple disciplines in your cosmetology. You're putting different cosmetics.
Absolutely.
You got one for your wife, one for your family, one for your job. And I don't know about you, but I hate switching out faces all the time.
So I was exhausted all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Okay, now, everything is going good on the outside, but on the inside, I mean, I just really feel the empathy for you, bro, that you're going into the bathroom and you're having emotional breakdowns when actually on the outside things look not too bad. Two kids, good wife.
Yeah, everything should be good. But my wife and I started fighting a lot. We started having fights all the time, and I was emotionally unavailable because of my upbringing with my dad. And so it just got really difficult for her and for me. And then we got divorced. And when we got divorced, I had put all of my hope in the fact that my marriage and kids would make me normal. So when that happened, instead of like having a bedrock of Christ in my life, I had a bedrock or put my wife that my wife had become my idol. And so when that happened, my life just had the rug pulled out from underneath it, and I was reeling. I didn't know what to do. I started drinking a lot, and then within that first year, and I was just starting to spiral, teetering on the edge of like real spiral, my dad got out of prison. And so
not good timing.
No, absolutely not. And it's one of those things where I never blame my father, but I was in a very emotionally depraved place where I just wanted someone to love me. And I'd always wanted, my dad was not a good father, was never really my mom taught me how to throw a baseball. I had some friends at the age of 11 teach me how to ride a bike behind my house because I was embarrassed.
Right.
So never had a dad to show me things. So when he got out of prison, it was this weird, sick thing in my heart where I knew he was horrible for me. But I was so compelled to want to find a relationship with him because I feel like God
maybe he's learned his lesson.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, I didn't even believe he'd learned his lesson. I just really thought, if I could just get my dad to love me and be around me, then at least that thing that I never thought I could get, because my dad just never really made me feel like if he cared enough about me, he would be there. So I thought, well, maybe if I'm around him, I'll feel better. So I started hanging out with my dad, and I started dabbling in methamphetamines. And the first time I ever did meth, because I'm in my 40s, so that was the thing, and I was from Oklahoma, it was just rampant. First time I ever did meth, it was just like, this is it. This is what I want to do. Like the very first time. It just made all of that other stuff that I had that I told you was going on in my heart, it all went away.
Well, I also want to bring up the issue is, listen, you had really hard communication problems with your wife.
Absolutely.
You guys could not communicate at all.
Yeah.
And how necessary is that for a successful marriage?
Absolutely. I was horrible. I was disassociative, because I had learned all my life to just put my emotions in a box because I didn't want to be a burden. When my mom and my dad, when my dad was home, my dad and my mom were fighting, and so I would try everything I could to not be just disappear, and that would mean that whatever was going on with me, I just button it up and put it in a box. And so I learned that all my life, and so when I get into a relationship older, you don't just stop doing that. You can't. So I would just still button up all my emotions and put them away. And how can you live with someone and be in a relationship with someone? You're both broken people, and then one of them doesn't know how to share their own feelings. Like the only feelings that I knew how to share were anger and sadness, because those things you really can't control. But everything else, I just button it up and stick it in a box, and she'd be like, "Hey, am I married to a like you act like a mannequin sometimes because I can't get you to share." So it was just tough.
I have to say, you know, when you're my age, you know, they're experimenting with a new drug called Ritalin, trying to make you give a little mental management to your so-called ADD or whatever your problems are.
Right.
And it's way past that. We're not talking about problems of person's attention deficit syndrome. There are holes in our hearts that have been put there. I have to say, just because we're going to be coming back to your front end of your meth usage and how this set the tone. Let me tell you, when meth is your God, right? When meth is your God, there is nothing else that matters.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, I have to say, remember that dope is so damaging,
yes,
it could completely change your life.
Absolutely.
Oh, here, let me see here.
You know the road to recovery can be difficult, but you don't have to travel it alone. Every Friday night, like-minded women gather together to share a meal and their stories, how they broke the destructive cycles in their lives by the power of God and moved on to a new life in Christ. For more information about Friday nights, just go out to their website at beyondfeartofreedom.org. If you can't get to BFF on Friday nights, or you don't live in the Phoenix area, you can stay connected by joining BFF's Subscribe Tribe, where you'll receive their weekly study guide, so you can track with them online. Just sign up today on BFF's website at beyondfeartofreedom.org. And don't forget to listen to BFF's weekly video podcast with Debbie G and Sheridan. Their own life experiences and their biblical influence will overhaul your thinking, your identity, and your future. They'll keep you encouraged with some great insight and biblical truth. Just friend them on Facebook or go out to their website at beyondfeartofreedom.org. BFF, where you might just discover a best friend forever.
Well, welcome back. We're doing the story of Raygen Mitchell, day 2, and our descent into meth. I mean, I have to say, after doing all these years in prison and doing the addiction wards of meth and heroin, crack, cocaine, you know, it's devastating. I mean, I'm not going to say it. And by the way, a little side note, I mentioned this on the show, on other shows before. The Greek word that's used in the New Testament for sorcery is pharmakos.
Yes.
This is a huge entry level into the dark side that people forget about. You know,
Yes.
they kind of say, hey, I'm just doing my joke. Yes, I got physiologically addicted. All those things are true. My mind's messed up. I'm a fog all the time. But what you don't really realize is you're allowing yourself a gateway into your life. Everybody thinks, well, it's just a gateway drug. No, this is a gateway into the spiritual realm. Would you concur with that?
Absolutely. It's one of those things where you think about it. I can tell you in my life, I would have a ritual before I got high every time. And if that ritual got messed up, it would just ruin my high. If I didn't, I would have to go get it, and then I have to come home and I have to use the restroom first, and then after this, and after this, and then after this. And it was like a little spell, and then it just opened your mind up. I would get so high on drugs so that I would see things and I would think things were real. And so it's one of those things where I absolutely think you're opening yourself up to a spiritual battle and demonic oppression and all of that. Absolutely.
Yeah, when you think about that, you know, drinking alcohol into oblivion and doing drugs at this level isn't bad enough. It has spiritual consequences.
Absolutely.
So you're just compounding. Everything's compounded with this because now you're doing both, and it's not good. And by the way, when you think about what Raygen just said here, routines so that I can get the proper high, to really accentuate and enhance my high.
Right. It's all about trying to get the highest high I possibly could. And so you create these routines. Things can't get in the way of them. People can't get in the way of them. Everything starts to get pushed out. Like you were saying, the longer I used meth, because like I said, once I found methamphetamines, it would calm me. Which sounds crazy, but I was a ADHD kid, like you were saying earlier, and so methamphetamines actually made me feel calm, even though I probably was not out exterior-wise, and I would just anything got in the way of that started getting pushed out. So I stopped drinking. I used to drink all the time. I stopped drinking because it got in the way of me getting high. Stopped hanging around friends because when I was hanging out with them, I couldn't get high because they didn't like to get high, so I stopped hanging out with friends, stopped going places, stopped going to do things.
However, you started hanging out with your dad and all his friends.
Because I could get high with them. So like all of my real friends, I couldn't hang out with them anymore. So I would start hanging out with my dad. I would gravitate towards people that my dad knew. I would do all these things so that I could get high. And so when I was around them, I could sit around and get high. And so I started hanging out with them. And so now I'm hanging out with people that for a living basically are criminals and do criminal things and do things. They're probably where I'm going to end up in about 10 years. They're already there. And so I'm hanging out with them. And so that's when things started to escalate quickly for me. That's when my drug addiction really took off.
I mean, birds of a feather flock together. I mean,
Absolutely.
they just do.
Absolutely.
And you're kind of like on the apprentice level now, hanging out with vets.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like I'm in the minor leagues and I'm hanging out with a bunch of guys that are in the majors. Yeah.
Yeah, I cannot say to you, I mean, I had a good relationship with my dad once I found the Lord. I had a good relationship with him.
Right.
And I have to say, I can't even imagine doing dope with my dad. I mean, that's a different generation. You know?
We would sit around and we would get high together. My brother, I have an older brother and an older sister, and then another older sister. That's my mom's daughter. But my dad's two children, my brother and my sister, they were messed up and in drugs and stuff like that all their life. And so there would be a time when I would be sitting in a living room with my dad, my older brother, my older sister, her husband, and me, and we would all be sitting there getting high together, like the whole family, just getting high and doing meth together.
I find that honestly appalling.
Yeah.
That you have the family sitting in the living room all blowing meth now. And by the way, this is not a cheap endeavor.
No, it was costing me easily. I would have to steal or whatever up to like $50 to $100 a day to start off. Starting off.
Well, let's just stop there. I mean, you had a job.
I did.
But now this has gotten in the way of your job, so the job's gone.
Yeah, job's got to go.
Now I have to do illegal issues to get money to just get meth.
Yeah. Because then, then I had an apartment, but I couldn't afford the apartment, and it was either pay for the apartment or do drugs. So I got rid of the apartment and just lived in my car, and then that happened. That trailed on for a year or two, and then.
And you were okay with it?
Yeah, absolutely, because I could get high. And the thing was, I had gotten to a point in my life where I didn't care how bad of a person I looked. So I didn't care. And by this time, to understand, I still have two children, and my ex-wife wants, is trying to get me to be a dad, and I've just stopped all of that because I'm ashamed that I'm using drugs every day, that I'm getting high every day, that I'm stealing stuff. I'm stealing from family. I'll steal from anybody. It doesn't matter if I can go get drugs with it. I'll steal it. I was trying to, like, my dad and us would sit around and think of ways to steal stuff from businesses to make a bunch of money so we could get more drugs. And so I'm thinking of ways to, they call it hitting a lick. Like I'm thinking of ways to hit a lick with my dad or hit a lick with my cousin or my brother so that we can get money so that we can go get high. And so that I just didn't have time for I was ashamed to be around my kids, and I was also high all the time. So my kids lost out in it.
Yeah, and here's an area where I have very little empathy. Let's just say that when your kids suffer because of your addiction, this is where you cross the line. Okay, I have been in the heroin and meth wards back in the day when they used to segregate it in the jail system here.
Yeah.
And I could not believe that they could walk away from their children. These are women, which generally I had already thought had a greater and stronger maternal pull than a guy does.
Right, no.
But no, once they were on this is to the exclusion of their job. Everything else failed, including their kids.
Absolutely.
And when my first house that I went, drug house I went to, and I'm looking at the conditions, you talk about, hey, you don't care about yourself, your hygiene. How was your hygiene like?
I didn't have hygiene. So
Didn't have it.
I'm living in a car, so I mean, occasionally I might take a shower, but it's one of those things where it wasn't like I woke up in the day and I was like, I need to brush my teeth, I need to take a shower. I was like, I woke up and I said, I need to get high. I don't have any money. I need to steal something, and then I need to get high.
That to me is the rat trap cycle.
No, absolutely.
That just gets you into a mode where everything to its exclusion. Listen, just think about if you have, and I can't get into this yet, I want to save it for Holy Thursday, right?
Yeah.
But I just want to exhort you, if you have the capacity for darkness at this level, what could your life be if you had light,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
I mean, if you can handle wickedness at this level,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, but people don't realize, well, I'm just a wicked person, I'm just unjust. Well, no, you are a very spiritual person.
Absolutely.
You just don't know it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you have a tool set that has been given to you, and you may have perverted it and used it for something else, but no matter how, like, if you are really good at something and you've used it for perversion, think of how good it could be used if it was used in the right way.
Now, when you started what I would call heavy use and you crossed over from your occasional use, this is around 28 years old.
Right.
How long did this stealing, or what did you say, the lick thing? What'd you say?
It's called hitting a lick.
Hitting a lick
is what they used to call it. Yeah.
Hey, everybody always says, Steve, you're so versed in all this stuff. Well, look at the people I interview, and you started around 28. Now you're full blown addiction. Now, how long did this go on?
It escalated. So once I lost my place to live and I was living in my car and just traveling, then I started like stealing stuff all the time, started selling drugs, and then I started living in hotels with other people, and we were just moving from hotel room to hotel room for like 2.5 years.
Okay, let me back up for a second. So now we've also, you just make sure I got this right. You just crossed over, you're doing your drugs, you're doing all this at the time, you have no place to live, you're living on your car, and now you needed to start dealing drugs.
Well, yeah.
You're in a marketing system.
Yeah, and now you're MLMing. Yeah,
you're MLMing, you're dope.
Yeah. Well, it just makes sense, right? So that's the natural progression for most people that do drugs, is they say, well, if I just buy a big chunk of drugs and I sell half of them, then I'll pay for more drugs and I'll get to do half of them. So, but like I was never, like that's the thing is like you'll hear people talking like, well, I was like the biggest drug dealer in the entire Southwest, and I'm sure there are people that were like that. I'm here to tell you I was not. I was a bad drug dealer. I would convince someone to give me like an ounce of meth so I could sell it and make money, and then I would just do it. And then they'd be like, where's my money? I'd be like, well, you're the one who gave me an ounce. You know I'm a drug addict. You probably shouldn't have done that. And so I was a horrible drug dealer. So drug dealing didn't really work for me, so I had to steal things. I stole everything all the time. Steal from companies, steal from businesses. If it wasn't bolted down, and if I could get bolt cutters, I'd steal it.
And do you think that's, and we're going to get into this tomorrow, but do you think was it your drugs that got you finally caught, or was it your stealing that finally got you caught?
It was the drugs, because I never really got arrested for stealing anything.
But you just said you were a prolific thief.
Oh yeah, I stole all the time. But I stole because of the drugs. Like if I didn't have to go out and buy drugs or get drugs, I probably wouldn't have Stealing was like this thing that I had to do, and I was not a good drug dealer. Like everyone I knew wanted to be a drug dealer. Like everyone wanted to be their own entrepreneur and sell drugs and do everybody had seen way too many documentaries about people selling crack in the 80s and how they made all this money. And I was like, I just want to do drugs. Like I was just this person who was like, I just want to get high. Like I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to have a nice car or flashy. I just want to get high. I don't care what my clothes look like. I was that guy. I wasn't the guy that was like, I want to have nice clothes. I was like, keep your nice clothes because I could buy more drugs with them. Like I just want to get high all the time. That's all I want to do. I want to be a degenerate drug addict, and I'm fine with that. This is what I deserve. This is who I really am. So I'm just going to do this. It
was easier to maintain that image than the multiple images that you had.
Because by this point I'd gotten so exhausted that I was like, this is who I really am. I'm going to let everybody just...
And there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, I was the greasy guy who looked like he had been doing drugs all day, the one that people would like walk by on the street and be like, man, this guy looks homeless and like he might steal something from me, and they would put their kids on the other side of him.
I've met guys on the corner down where I live, and curse me or not, I give them some money sometimes. I'm sorry to say I just do. Well, listen, when we come back tomorrow, we're going to continue our story with Raygen Mitchell. And until then, if you're not doing anything Friday night, hop out over to Beyond Fear to Freedom's website. They're Friday night from 5:30 to 6:15 for food fellowship and childcare, and then the main meeting after that for both guys and gals.
Absolutely.
So remember, until next time, I'm Steve Savant. And remember, no one's outside the reach of God. No, not one.